Arizona gets ready to take on Houston in maybe its game of the year.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Today's episode is brought to you today by FanDuel. Right now, with new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Again, locked on, also your team every day. Arizona, Houston. This is going to be a massive, massive game for the University of Arizona for a variety of reasons. Now, the first one is, if Arizona can win this game against the Houston Cougars, then I think you can start saying, all right, can this team be a 2 seed? Now, there's a big reason. There's a big reason for this is that there's certain teams. Listen, Arizona's good, but you want to be able to avoid certain teams. You want to be able to avoid certain teams in the NCAA tournament as long as you can. And I think one of those teams is Duke. We saw that earlier in the year. Arizona does not match up well at all with these. And I think a big part of that too is when you watch this team, you also know that there's going to be certain teams that just don't play well. But you look around the conference or the country with these 2 seeds, and it's game on. I'll take my chances with Arizona against basically any of those 2 seeds. And when I say that, like a Tennessee, whatever, cool, whatever. But there's Duke. Duke's not a team that I'm particularly interested in playing in the Sweet 16. Auburn is not one of those teams. Auburn is not one of these teams either that I'm particularly interested in playing as well. So you want to try to avoid those teams as much as possible. Now, there's a little bit of a setback, obviously, in that game against obviously, there's a big setback a little bit because, you lost to Kansas State. You don't want to lose to Kansas State, but it is what it is. But if I were to tell you going into the week that you could beat either Houston or you could beat Kansas State, I think everybody would say Houston, and Arizona's still got that goal in line. Now, Houston's probably going to be a slight favorite in that game. Line hasn't come out yet, but probably going to be a slight favorite in that game. And there's some reasons. There's some reasons why First, they're just a little bit more physical, and I think that's something that you got to look at and say, that's just something that Arizona, doesn't necessarily have all around the perimeter, and I think that's something that you got to keep in mind. But Houston also is a team that has just been there. They are rugged, and watching Kelvin Sampson's team, Kelvin Sampson's the man. Kelvin Sampson is I think one of the most underrated coaches that has basically ever come through college basketball. People don't give him nearly enough credit for what he's built. I think if you were in Indiana and you had kept him, you're probably looking at a drastically different situation that you're dealing with right now. So that's obviously something that to keep in mind. But this is going to come down, I think, in a lot of ways to the Houston Bigs up front. The Houston Bigs are their problems, to put it mildly. Now, again, it's not like you have somebody in there that is going to average, 35 points per game or anything like that, but they just kind of wear you down, and their numbers aren't exactly even the great to begin with, but they're big and they're physical, and a lot of that starts with Juwan Roberts. It feels like Juwan Roberts has been around for 300 years. He hasn't been around for 300 years. He is he's kind of the epitome of what I'm talking about. You look at his stats, he averages 11-6 on the season. Cool. But if you watch his impact, you can tell that he is a lot better than that 11-6. And not only is he a lot better than that 11-6, he's a guy that you can just see that their whole team kind of just feeds off of him. And he's had games this season where Arizona goes right after him, where he goes right after other teams. Think about that UCF game with Jalen Hall. Jalen Hall, UCF. Looks like they're going to possibly win that game. And then you just get the ball to Jawan. You just get the ball to him, and he goes out of his way, and he pushes him out of the way, and he scores at the end, basically winning the game. That is that's kind of what he does, though. He is just like I said, he is a very, very underrated player in the grand scheme of things, and it's going to be interesting to see because the only one now I think you're going to try Tobe on him initially, but the only one that can really that I think is really going to be able to deal with that consistently is going to be Henri Veesaar. Henri's going to have to play a lot in this game, and not only is Henri going to have to play a lot in this game, he's going to have to be able to. How do I put this? He's going to have to be able to stay out of foul trouble, and he's going to have to be able to finish around the basket. Now, we've seen at times that Henri can be very, very good, obviously, but Henri is also, again, it's kind of that move counter move thing that you see a lot of times with big men that teams make a little bit of an adjustment for you, and then after they make a little bit of an adjustment for you, then you got to make that next move. It seems like Henri's made that next move, but he's about to face an entirely different level of physicality against Houston, and that's where it's going to be interesting to see how this does play out. Then the other one you got Tugler as well. Another one that you look at him and you're like, okay, well, the stats aren't great, but again, 6-6, and you also just kind of have to watch him play. The fact that they have so many guys in here that average a steal per game also kind of shows you where they're at. That's one that I feel much better if Tobe's on, or heck, even I don't love it, but Carter, I'm all right with Carter on him as well. But he's good as well. And what they do is they just kind of wear you down. And when they just kind of keep coming at you in waves. Francis is another one. Francis is, he's another guy that's been around forever. It seems like 5 points, 4 boards, and plays 15, 16 minutes per game. But he's very effective. He's very strong, and he's very physical. And again, that's something that if you're Arizona, you're going to have to deal with. He's another one, though. So Arizona, and I don't know what the deal is with Trey Townsend, if he's going to play or not, but that is one thing that you have to look at, and you have to say, okay, how is Arizona going to be able to match up with that? Tobe is going to have to play really well in this game. I do think that this is a Tobe Awaka game. I think you brought him in for games just like this, to be honest with you. I think that's the kind of games that you bring him in, and you're like, all right, Tobe, we need you to be able to go to work. We need you to be physical. We need you to play we need you to play tough, and we need you to be able to do basically all the little things out there. And if you can do that, then obviously Arizona's going to be in some good shape. But it's got to happen, though. That's the thing, is that you've got to play better than you've got to take a little bit more out of it, and you got to be able to just see where exactly can these guys contribute. And then Carter Bryant, again, Carter Bryant is obviously, he's like a young colt. He's like a fawn that we always talk about. But with he is a I think you're also kind of saying to yourself, all right, where can Arizona exploit some of this? And the first big one is at that 3-point line. The 3-point line with Carter Bryant. He's a guy that you got to be able to make some shots. And what I like about Carter is Carter's rebounding, I think, is very, very underrated in all of this. I think with Carter, you also know too that with Carter, that you got to start making those 3-point. If you make those 3-point shots, it makes things a lot easier for you. And that's something that Arizona's going to have to do. I think, Arizona's going to have to make some shots in this game. And that starts with Carter. Carter, like I said, he's got to be able to make some shots. He's got to be able to make some big buckets. And I think he can do that. One thing, though, that I do like about him, like I said, even when he doesn't play well, he rebounds well. And when he rebounds well, that's something that obviously Trey struggles with as well. So there is obviously that. Now, the question then is, what can Arizona do on the perimeter? Because that's going to be a huge aspect of this entire game. Arizona is going to have to play good basketball on the perimeter. And again, it's like we talked about with Caleb Love as well. Caleb is going to have to be able to to play well. How can all of this happen? That's going to be the question. But first, FanDuel. FanDuel. All right. Now, here's the deal with FanDuel. When the games tip off, NBA is here, it's just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And again, here's the great deal with FanDuel. You can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on fourth quarter comebacks, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Very cool. Now, right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every minute more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, NBA is in high gear right now. Get in on FanDuel. This is the time to get in on FanDuel. And again, you got college basketball as well if you want. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on your team every day. Now, the perimeter. This is where another one. This is obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to, we'll see how this plays out for Arizona. But it's all, on the perimeter. This all starts with Caleb Love. That's a big part of all of this. This all starts with Caleb Love. Listen, Arizona needs him to play like an All-American. Arizona needs him to play like the guy that you brought in and you're like, okay, you were an All-American last year. You were the Conference Player of the Year last year. We need you to be able to, do more of that. And I think with Caleb, that he is more than capable. Now, there's been a lot of games this year when he's been able to get into when he's been able to get into the lane. He's been able to kind of stress defenses, and that's obviously been a really, really good thing for Arizona. You just need more of it. You need him to be able to continue to do that. And when the shot's there, you're going to have to hit the shot. He's had a lot of massive games in his career against really good teams. I mean, heck, Duke knows firsthand what Caleb Love can do. But you've got to be able, in a game like this, you got to show up. You need to be somebody that even if that shot isn't falling, you're getting to the bucket. You're getting your little floater, you're getting your things like that, and you're getting fouled. You have to have that happen. And if that happens, then I think that you start feeling a little bit better about where things are. But Caleb has got to play well. This is absolutely a Caleb game. He's got to be there. He's got to play well. Listen, this is probably not an Anthony Del Orso game. I'm not really breaking any news there. We love ADO on this show, but ADO also is somewhat. I think ADO is also somewhat limited, though. There's certain games where you look at and you're just like, this probably isn't this probably isn't a great game for ADO. This does not feel like an ADO game. Now, I'd love to be wrong on this one. If I could be wrong on this one, that would be great. But this does not feel like an ADO game. This feels more like a game where he's probably going to struggle a little bit. And again, I'm not really breaking any news there. That's why KJ Lewis is going to have to be huge in this game. KJ Lewis is going to have to come in. And again, with KJ, he's got a very loose dribble. We all know that. But when he gets downhill, when he gets into the paint, he can make passes. He can finish. And you can tell players just kind of, feed off of KJ. He's, like I said, he's a good basketball player. He is a really good basketball player, and he makes timely shots. He makes free throws, but this is going to be a game where he's going to have to play well. There's just no way around it. He's going to have to play well, and he's kind of the guy that kind of fits in on what Houston wants to do. That's he's got that kind of vibe to him. Then you look at the wing or the wings for Houston. That's going to be another interesting matchup here. LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp. Now, Cryer has been around forever. Obviously, I believe he won a national championship on that Baylor team. And you not only Cryer, you've also got You've also got, like I said, Sharp as well, Arsenault. Those dudes are all good. Those guys are all really, really good. And you're going to have to be able to match that if you're Arizona at those wing positions. Again, I don't know that I necessarily see this as an ADO game, but I do see that Caleb Love and KJ Lewis are going to have to match it up. Have to match up. I think it's that simple. If they match up well there, then I think that Arizona's going to be in really decent shape. But you got to be able to match up. You got to be able to do that. And if you can do that, then things I think start working out a little bit better for you. But that's going to be a massive, massive matchup though for the Wildcats is getting those two being able to play well, those two being able to really just kind of come to the forefront and play really, really good basketball. If they can do that, then again. Now, the other one, too, that's going to be a very interesting one to watch is at that point guard spot with Jaden Bradley. Jaden Bradley's coming off a really poor game, probably his worst game of the season against Kansas State. Doug McDaniel pretty much just kind of did whatever he wanted against him. And defensively, Jaden had a very difficult time. And offensively, Jaden, he turned the ball over way too much. That's, there's really no other way to put it. Just kind of turned the ball over way too much. Just wasn't good enough. But watching this team unfold, though, you can also tell too that those games are generally very few and far between for Arizona, and that's something too that I think you take a little bit of solace in knowing that okay, just need Arizona to be able to play a little bit better. Well, Jaden, you need him to be able to play a lot better because Jaden's also going to have to play this entire game, and I think that's something that you worry about a little bit is that Jaden's going to have to play this entire game, and I don't know that that's just kind of what it is at this point. So we'll see how this plays out. But Jaden's going to have to play better. Jaden's going to have a good game. And I think Jaden will have a good game because, again, Jaden is a good basketball player. Now it's time for predictions. But first, FanDuel. All right. Here's the great thing with FanDuel right now. You can get, when the game tips off, we're right in the middle of NBA. The NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get it in than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you could stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can combine your live bets with same-game parlays. Pretty cool stuff. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets for your first if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment count with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, you've also got college basketball here as well. There's nothing better than feeling like you got a little bit of skin in the game. So again, go to FanDuel and check all of that out because again, football's done, but that doesn't mean that basketball isn't an awesome sport to bet on as well. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk predictions here. I'm about as optimistic a U of A fan as there ever is. I don't love this game for Arizona. I don't. That's why I was really hoping they could beat Kansas State, just because I think it would have made it a little bit easier for Arizona. But I don't love this matchup for the U of A because this is a team that's deep and they're physical. Now again, Arizona can certainly beat this team. So I don't want to sit here and act like, this is like an invincible team that could never be beaten. That's certainly far from the case. But this is also a team, though, too, that is, they're playing on it. They're playing, they've been there. They've been around the block. They're physical and they're deep. I think that's one of my concerns with Arizona is that you're not very deep, and the depth that you do have, guys like Trey Townsend, these are bad. This is a bad matchup for him. Obviously, hope he's able to play and give you a little bit of depth from time to time, but this is a really, really bad matchup for him. I think it's going to be a closer game, though, because, again, in McHale, Arizona wins games in McHale. That's always kind of been the case. It is. But When I'm looking at a prediction, though, I'm thinking that this is good. I'm going something like Houston 81, Arizona 76. Uh, Houston, like I said, I think they're the best team in the conference, and I think they're going to be the team that's probably going to have the most probably maybe the most success come NCAA tournament time. We'll see. But if Arizona could get this win, it would be a massive, massive victory for the U of A. It would be a huge victory because at that point, you've beaten Iowa State, you've beaten Houston, you've beaten Texas Tech. You can start looking ahead a little bit and say, all right, come, NCAA selection time, can you start getting into that 2 seed realm? Can you start getting into that? And I think at that point, if you could do that, you're like, all right, feel a lot better about where you're at. But it's going to be this one, like I said, this one's going to be a slog. This one's going to be a very difficult game across the board, and I think if that's why from an Arizona perspective, you keep it close in the last minutes, you got a chance. And again, McHale, the crowd is going to have to be crazy tomorrow. The crowd is going to have to be insane, and I think that that's something that if that happens, that Arizona could be in some decent shape. But we will see how that does play out. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, Locked On, your team every day. We will be back with you on the postgame show tomorrow.